moderator. I just want to ask all of us seated here, what if you were a Christian? What if you were a Muslim? Seated here are Christians and Muslims, and maybe few people who have other religious affiliation. What if you were a Christian? What if you were a Muslim? There are some Christians here that if they were Muslims, they would have been imams. But today they are Christians, therefore they are not imams. There are some Muslims here that if they were to be Christians, probably they would have been Catholic priests or bishops. What role did you play to determine your religion? What role did you play to determine the family you were born into? Anybody here? Did you play any role to decide which family and which religion you were born into? And so if you had no role to play in the family you were born into and the religion you were born into, why then do we have this degree of disunity? Why then is religion a platform and ethnicity a platform for creating chaos within our country? Nigeria is a pluralistic society. We have over 350 ethnicities, over 500 languages, and none of us played any role to determine what language we are going to belong to ab initio. We found ourselves where we found ourselves by accident of nature and by God's design. And therefore, why can't we live a harmonious life? But you see, more often than not, when we talk about youth empowerment and the imperative of unity, of love, and of peace, most times we tend to look at this from an economic perspective. Now, youth empowerment, if you look at it economically, will not bring about love and tolerance. It only brings about some degree of sustainability, some degree of independence, some degree of people having the capacity to take care of their needs. Of course, if you do that, that can help to restore peace and minimize insecurity, because you cannot disconnect insecurity with unemployment, with poverty, and all of that. But when we're talking about youth empowerment in relationship to love and tolerance, it means that we're talking about an empowerment that is psychological, an empowerment that is mental, an empowerment that is not tangible. However, the impact and efficacy of such empowerment cannot be overemphasized. What knowledge do we have about other cultures and about other religions? You see, it was Immanuel Wallenstein that once asserted that poverty is a state of the mind. Part of the reason why we have insecurity, part of the reason why we have ethno-religious conflict in Nigeria and in Africa is because we are suffering from poverty of the mind. Because I'm a Christian, I'm not interested in understanding what the teachings of the Quran and the Hadith of the Prophet Muhammad is saying. Therefore, when somebody is not a Christian, when somebody is not a Muslim, then the person is an unbeliever or the person is an antichrist. All of these notions contribute to the factors that precipitate insecurity and conflict within our country. It therefore means that part of the empowerment that we should be talking about in the 21st century in relation to youth and the conversation on tolerance is mental empowerment. It means that I do not need to be a Muslim to study Islam. I do not need to be a Christian to understand Christianity. My PhD thesis was titled Terrorism and Islamophobia in Nigeria. And I can put it to you that even within the intelligentsia, you see a lot of bias. And so if you have such mentality, even among professors, it means that the future of unity in this country is gloomy. And it means that the kind of empowerment we should be talking about today is an empowerment that has to do with our mindset. There's a need to reset our mindset. There's a need to recalibrate our mindset. In fact, there's a need to format our mindset. So we begin to have a proper understanding of who we are and the beauty of our diversity. The beauty of our diversity is the advantage that we have. How comes if a Nigerian meets another Nigerian in Europe and the guy is an Igbo man and you call him one name because that's your brother from Nigeria? But when I come to Nigeria, it's no longer a one name, it's something else because we are now in Nigeria. Why such kind of thing? It means that for us to achieve love and tolerance in Nigeria, bearing in mind our plurality, bearing in mind